Joel, it's always great to connect with you. Now, there is a situation unfolding out in Everett, Washington that has some parents pretty upset. What exactly is going on?
Well, it's kind of a tragic situation. We have one of our LifeWise programs that's up and running out there. And as you know, and maybe just to remind your audience, we provide Bible education for public school students during school hours. So kids sign up for LifeWise, which is a release time program. Kids are taken off-site during the day. Once a week, they get a Bible lesson, and then they're taken back to school. These programs have been around for decades and decades and decades, and we've been growing rapidly in the last few years. But we started up a program in Everett, Washington, and it went so well last year. We had dozens of families engaged, and some individuals went to the school board, started crying. I don't know what they shout, calling us Nazis or something, or calling us, all the things they say. And the school board, one gentleman on the school board in particular, was swayed by these things, and they put in some really discriminatory rules. They updated their policies and changed the rules on us so that, unlike other student groups, other groups working with the school, we cannot show up now at any of the school-related functions, like the fair where kids sign up for programs like ours and learn about new things. That's a new thing.
Wait. So just, I got to pause you there for a minute. So at the events, when a school says, hey, families, come in, or hey, kids, come in and check out the possible clubs you could join, you guys are not welcome at that event, but the other clubs are.
Yeah, so we've been singled out as to, if kids want to join the Lego club or the chess club or things, that they can get information about those, but not about LifeWise Academy. Additionally, like with all clubs, everywhere we exist, kids bring in a permission slip. It is optional, and with parental permission, kids bring in a permission slip at the beginning of the school year to sign up for the course. They have now changed the rules that children need to bring in a permission slip every single week. And not only that, they've said that the parents need to carry in the permission slip each and every week, which essentially it's clearly an obstacle they're putting up to try to push us out, because that's unreasonable for parents to do that. It almost defeats the purpose of the program in a sense.
Are there any other clubs that you know of that are required to do a weekly permission slip?
No, absolutely not. For one, not any across the hundreds. In fact, we'll be in over 1,000 schools this school year. None of them require that. And even in that school, our impression is none of these other clubs and courses and things require that. For anybody who's just reasonable and common sense, you bring in one permission slip at the beginning of the school year, right, to sign up for a year-long course. But that's, in fact,
as a parent who has to fill these permission slips out, I am well aware of how annoying it can be even to do the one. So it's like, to ask people to do that weekly, that's very, very interesting to me. But go ahead, because I know that there's another big issue, and I think you were about to say it, that is also purportedly going on. So break that down for us.
Yeah, and perhaps the one that is most, almost comically discriminatory is that if we give anything to our students, so a student comes to LifeWise and likely they fill out, they do a worksheet or they do a coloring sheet of Moses or something, or we give them a Bible, which is essentially their textbook, of course, it's a Bible education program. They now, according to this policy, if they bring it back to the school, it must go back to the school in a sealed envelope. And that sounds like it can't even be real, but a sealed envelope, as though the material is dangerous, that it will infect other children. So that
inside their backpack. So if they leave LifeWise during lunchtime or recess, whenever the time period, is special, that they're with LifeWise and they are bused back to the school, even if this Bible's in their book bag, it has to be covered?
The policy says a sealed envelope. It can't even be an envelope that's that has the flap. Sealed envelope, so that no one has any danger of being exposed to the Bible, I guess, in Everett, Washington.
And that policy in particular, with the forcing of the kids purportedly to seal up their Bibles, that came about after the complaint. So you guys started, everything was going well. That none of these policies were in place when you started, correct? In Everett?
That's correct. That's correct. And so the school board in particular moved to change these policies to single us out. It seems to be a transparent attempt to get us to effectively shut down the program. And so we really tried to handle this quietly. We thought, this is going to look, if people find out about this, it's going to look very ridiculous. And so we went to the school and tried to very quietly say, this is discrimination. You can't do this. There's a constitution in this country. And they were not receptive to that. And so we engaged with First Liberty, the kind of a religious liberty firm that has won multiple Supreme Court cases over the last several years. They're really amazing, First Liberty. And we even asked First Liberty to be as quiet as you can. Send a letter. We don't want the school to look like they have egg on their face. Just tell them that they can't do this. And so we sent the letter. And in response to the letter, publicly at a school board meeting, one of the school board members said, "We received a letter accusing us of holding animus toward LifeWise Academy." And during a meeting, Billy, this is not a joke, during a meeting, into the microphone from his seat as a school board member, the school board member said, "I want everyone to know with great clarity, I do hold animus toward LifeWise Academy." And so they did not respond.
So they did not respond well. They didn't respond the way that you would have liked to see them respond. Now, how are parents in the community responding to this? Because now there's a federal lawsuit. You filed a lawsuit about this, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But how are people responding to the issue itself that now is boiling over? Because this is no longer something that can be concealed or hidden. It's a public matter now. What's going on there in the community?
Well, as you can imagine, parents feel attacked. They feel singled out, for exercising their very clear religious liberties. And this is a program that it's entirely optional, right? So public school parents want to incorporate Bible education into the educational school day of their kids. And so they sign them up for an optional program. It's not negatively affecting other students in any way. And to be publicly singled out, to then have that really taken away from them when the Supreme Court has already ruled on release time that it's constitutional. I mean, that was 1952. It's been ruled on. As you can imagine, parents are upset by this, and especially when we've been trying to do this in a way that isn't offensive, is just really, again, kids whose parents opt them into the program want to quietly have a Bible study.
Okay, so this lawsuit, talk a little bit about the lawsuit, what LifeWise is hoping to accomplish with this, because, look, a lot of people, they might jump to a lawsuit first. What you're saying is you guys went to them, tried to talk with them, tried to reason with them, didn't get anywhere, found yourself in a position where you felt this is what you needed to do. So talk about what you're hoping to see happen.
All we are hoping to see happen is for families to have access to the program in a way that is not discriminatory toward them. I mean, that is really it. We did not go looking for this. We felt like it was very clear, very open, very public that we were being discriminated against. And we felt it is our responsibility to link arms with families in the community to say, hey, could you please just stop? Could you please just let, the normal policies go back into place? And so that's really all we're looking for.
Have you had any, I know there's always issues, like a lot of communities, they respond really positively. Has there been anything like this similar that you've dealt with? I mean, we've talked a lot over the years, and obviously there's been media things that have happened, but I don't know that I've heard another case that goes this far with a LifeWise, location.
So not like this. We did have one program in the state of Ohio that they did shut the program down. They changed the policy to not allow release time programs. It was a similar situation in that it was honestly people in the community who attempted to politicize the issue, make LifeWise out to be something that we're not. I mean, we're a Bible study, a Bible education program for kids, and it's optional. But found sympathetic ears on a school board who then, who then moved to change their policy. Now, in that case, the state legislature of Ohio stepped in to say, you can't do that. And so the law literally changed after that took place. And so that's all been reversed, and we're back in those schools, that school district. That would probably be the closest instance. But we regularly see those who would oppose the teaching of the Bible, right? You and I know this. There are those out there that don't like the Bible, that don't want people to be taught the Bible. And they're not concerned whether or not it's a matter of religious liberty. They just don't want the Bible to be taught. And they'll go to really any lengths to try to stop it. And so we see that happen in communities, but usually that gets worked out. Once the program's up and running, teachers see the benefit, school officials see the benefit, parents see the benefit, and those voices really fade, because how are you going to get upset when there's something so beneficial? But yeah, from time to time, we see this where they find, sympathy among those who are in positions of authority.
A couple of things that are interesting here, and I guess I'll editorialize a little bit. I shouldn't, but I will. It's interesting for people who talk so much about choice in general. Here, you're giving people a choice if they want to send their kids to a Bible study. And a lot of the people who send their kids, by the way, are not Christians even. They're not churchgoers, which is a really amazing part about your program and others like it. But trying to take that choice away from parents and from kids is very bizarre to me. But furthermore, I want to just circle back before we go to the covering of the Bibles, to the sealing up of the Bibles. I mean, imagine if you told kids they couldn't wear their burqa, or they couldn't wear their hijab, or they couldn't wear they have to seal it up and put it away in a bag because it might offend someone. Or if you said this about any other book, especially a holy book. This to me, that to me is the part of this that it was almost unbelievable to read it, that this is what's purportedly happening. These Bibles are being sealed up. I don't know if you want to give any final thoughts on that in particular, because I think it's important we end on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And at times it makes you wonder whether people can hear themselves, because just like you said, we live in a country of freedom. And we live in a country that's very careful around things like censorship, and particularly when it comes to religious freedom. I mean, and that could be a serious thing, that you would say that, because it's a Bible, it needs to be covered up. Because it's a Bible, it needs to be in a sealed envelope, is really bizarre. And so that's, I think, one of the reasons why it does kind of strike that chord, that, wow, this is they're taking this to a new length. You can't even see it. And the fact that it needs to be sealed as though it's dangerous. So yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing that was one of the pieces that said, hey, we have to step up here. We're not looking for fights. We're looking to teach the Bible to kids. But when you have a program with dozens of families engaged and it's having a great impact, and that happens, there is a time where you say, okay, let's stand up and say, just because we're Christians, doesn't mean that you can impose these discriminatory policies.
For those who are interested in keeping up with LifeWise, and maybe this is the first time they're hearing about what you do in public schools, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, we would love to connect with you if you're interested. You can go to our website, lifewise.org. That's LIFEWISE.org. And the great thing is that we have a webpage set up for every school district in the nation. You can look up your local school district, the school district of your cousins or grandkids, or whichever school district, and you can get engaged. You can add your name to our interest list. You can find out more information. And I'll assure you that this situation in Everett is very rare. In most communities, it goes really well, and we'd love to engage with you.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be in 1,000 schools, just to underscore that. And the fact that in 1 to 2 schools you've had this kind of issue, it speaks, I think, to the effectiveness of the program. And we've talked about this in the past, what is actually happening, the positive things that this is doing for schools, for families, and for children and individuals across the board. As always, appreciate you breaking it all down with us today.
Billy, thanks for having me.